Hello, respected lecturers. We are Group 40, and today we will be presenting our analysis for Chapter 2 Elements of Logic in Critical Thinking. So, our group applies the concept from this chapter to a real world issue, which is the proposed under 16 social media ban. My name is Paul Shen. Today, I will discuss a real world issues and the logical foundation behind the government arguments. So, logical thinking is a structured way of reasoning. It helps us make decisions based on evidence and logic, not just emotion. In critical thinking, we don't just agree or disagree. We first examine the reasoning behind a conclusion. Our goal is to use this approach to analyze different perspectives and possible solutions. The issue we focus on is the debates about banning social media for those under 16 in Malaysia, which involve concerns about mental health, addictions, and online safety. So moving on the next slide, the first premise is your safety. The government argues that teenager brains are still developing. Because of this, they may lack the maturity to resist addiction, pressures, and harmful online influence. Due to this vulnerability, the government believes young people need protection from risks such as cyberbullying and mental health issues. This forms the first foundation of the arguments. And we look at the second premise, which is the risk multiple. Social media platforms are designed to keep users engaged from long periods, and the algorithm continuously recommend contents which may increase exposure to harmful materials and online addictions. So when we combine both premise, vulnerable teenagers and high online risk, the government conclude that a ban is necessary. However, as a critical thinker, we should not stop at the conclusion. We must evaluate whether the premise are strong, whether the reasoning is valid, and whether there are assumptions involved. With that, I will pass to my teammates to continue with the next element of logic.
Following up next, I will briefly deconstruct the logic behind the proposed social media bans for individuals under 16 in Malaysia by examining two main inference change, which is mental health and online safety. Let's begin with inference change 1, mental health. Policymakers often point out that teenagers' depressions and anxiety are increasing, and at the same time, social media usage is also rising. From this observation, the arguments move towards the conclusion that social media is a major cause of deteriorating mental health. However, the key logic issues lies in the movement from correlations to causations. Just because two trends rise together doesn't mean one directly causes the others. These reasonings assume that social media is the primary cause of mental health problems. In realities, mental health is also influenced by many factors, including academic pressures, family environments, economic stress, and broader societal changes. When the arguments treat correlation as a proof of causation, it makes what we call a causal inference leap. Now let's move to inference change 2, online safety. There are genuine risks online such as cyberbullying, scams, grooming, and exposure to harmful content. The reasoning here follows this pattern. Risks exist, minors are vulnerable, therefore banning social medias will eliminate harms. But this involves another important inference leap, which is from identifying risk to recommending total prohibitions. These arguments assume that minors are incapable of learning digital skills, that prohibitions is more effective than educations or regulations, and that a ban can be fully enforced. It also assumes that banning access will remove risk rather than push usage underground.
Hi, my name is Jun Sheng, and I will be presenting the evidence supporting the under 16 social media ban. To understand why this is necessary, we must look at the real world tragedies caused by unregulated access. First, social media platforms can manipulate vulnerable minds. In Russia, there's 130 teenagers took their own lives due to the blue whale challenge, which is a viral trend causing them into self-harm. Closer to home in Malaysia, we face severe digital exploitation. Students are using AI tools to generate fake explicit images for profits. Others fall victim to financial sextortion, which are scammers will pretend to be young women to trick teenage boys into sending intimidate photos for blackmail. This proves many teens lack of the maturity to navigate these online dangers. Next, cyberbullying is claiming lives. A young girl in Sarawak tragically died after 69 of her followers voted for death on her Instagram poll. In Penang, a college student took his own life after an anonymous Facebook post that ruined his reputation. Finally, extreme digital addiction led to severe distress, like the Gazabiat Indian sisters who committed suicide when their phone access was restricted. These tragedies prove exactly why under 16 social media ban is essential. That's all from me. Thank you.
Right now, we'll be moving on to the assumptions. So the first assumptions are is the digital wall safety assumption, which includes that the government assumed that the mandatory ID checks, which is the EKYC, they assume that it's full proof for the kids. And the reality is that the kids will utilize the usage of VPNs that can be they can move them to a different country without any bans. And the kids can also utilize their parents or their older siblings' IC to register under any circumstances lah. So they can utilize this method to bypass any safety measurements. And the next one will be behavioral assumptions. If the government bans social media platforms such as TikTok or Instagram, then the kids will spend more time offline. This is what they thought it will happen. But in reality is the kids will potentially move to the dark web or any other private gaming chats which there has no zero moderation such as Discord or Telegram. So here's the thing that we need to think about is why are we pushing the kids from a monitor space and risking them into like a more shadow and shallowy space. So this is the question that we need to assume. So next is the parental role assumption. So the policy assumes that all parents will agree with the ban and they will enforce it at home. So this is what the government will think. And the reality is the parents often use social media as a tool for babysitting, which can be demonstrated when they are outside or anywhere else. And parents may feel the ban is overkill and may voluntarily create accounts for their children. So this is not entirely true. And the truth is the law is only as strong as the people that are willing to follow it. And the last assumption is the impact assumption. So the real question is, does the ban solve the root problem, or does removing social media equals to better control and mental health? And here's the truth about it is social media is often considered a symptom, not the main cause of anxiety. And by removing the app, it might not change the mental health problem since there are still other factors such as bullying and academic stress that still plays a role in these kind of situations, including the mental health of children lah. And yeah, that's all from my section, and I'll move on to the next one.
Hi everyone, so my name is Simir Zain. So I'll be talking about the implications of social media ban for under the age of 16 years old. So we got three implications here. So the first implications are so what does this mean is it means the government will choose to prioritize the youth safety instead of giving the rights of digital freedom. So for to make it much more easy for us to understand it means the protection will always come first instead of giving them the rights to digital freedom. So the second implication is digital age of consent. This is basically like a new law where the age of 16 will be the minimum age to handle the social media accounts. And lastly, it's about the identity verifications. So what does this do is to make the ban much more effective, users needs to link their social media account with their own identity cards. So it helps to see who are using the accounts and also to track like unwanted case like grooming, cyberbullying, and also scamming. So what does this do is it removes the shield of being anonymous behind the internet. So the next slide is about consequences. We got two consequences. First is the positive and the second one is the negative. So on the positive side is it will always help with the mental health recovery. This is because it can remove like the pressure of that the youth gets from scrolling the social media platforms, and also helps to reduce the cyber victimizations. And lastly, it will also help them to improve their academic and also their physical self. This is because they got their own time and much more time to do on the real world activities. The last one is the negative side, is there will be always a risk of the students to bypass this alternatively, like using VPN. Also, smart students can find other ways to hide their own identity to use the social media accounts. And next one is digital literacy gaps, means they can miss out on learning on how to use the internet safely. And the last one is there's always a risk in data privacy because we are linking our identification card information into the social media accounts. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Moving on from the previous point, I will be analyzing the consistency of the under 16 social media ban. In critical thinking, consistency means our arguments must be fair across the board and free of contradiction. If a government create a rules to protect children, that rules need to be applied logically to all similar lists. Otherwise, the policy becomes hypocritical or ineffective. Now, let's look at the primary contradiction here. The core argument for the ban is that social media is a dangerous place where under 16s are exposed to stranger and adaptive algorithm. However, is this rule being applied consistently? While we are banning TikTok and Instagram, we are still allowing children to spend hours on massive online gaming platform. These scams often have unmonitored voice chat with stranger and look bosses that function like gambling. From a critical thinking perspective, if we say social media is too risky but online gaming is perfectly fine, our logic is inconsistent. We are targeting the brand of the apps rather than the actual harm. Let's look at the next slides. To solve this real-world challenge, we need to apply critical thinking methods. Instead of an inconsistent ban on specific platforms, we should advocate for a consistent digital safety framework. This means any platform, whether it's a social network, a gaming site, or a forum, must meet the same high standard of edge verification and data protection. By being consistent, we ensure that kids don't just leave a banner social media apps only to find the exact same dangers in a different corner of the internet. A consistent rules is a safer rules because it leaves no blind spot for children to fall through.
After examining some real-life evidence, the next important question is relevance. Does this ban actually fix the root problem? From our discussions, the root problem identified is youth vulnerability. Teenagers under 16 face higher risk of mental health issues, cyberbullying, exposure to harmful content, and addictive platform design. These risks are especially significant because adolescents are still developing emotionally and cognitively. The proposed ban directly responds to this vulnerability by restricting access for this specific age group. By limiting exposure during a critical developmental stage, the government aims to reduce the immediate risks identified in our premises and evidence. However, we must also consider whether the ban addresses the deeper structural causes such as algorithm-driven content systems, digital literacy gaps, family issues, and broader social pressures. These factors may continue to influence young people even if direct access is restricted. Therefore, the ban is clearly relevant to the target group and the identified risks. However, whether it fully resolves the root causes depends on whether additional supportive measures are implemented alongside the policy.
Hi, my name is Brendan Kanjini, and I'll be presenting on clarity for the three social media platforms. For YouTube, as stated by the directions, that's where you can access their terms and services. As for content guidelines, it can be found using the help function in the settings. Rules stated by YouTube can easily be accessed through app or searched online. The guidelines that are stated is to ensure that content posted are within regulation and legal to ensure safety and respect among its users. As for Facebook, community standards can be accessed through the legal section, while the specific policies can also be searched within the app itself using search policies functions. Guidelines made by Facebook explains what content are and not allowed, like violence or hate speech. As for WhatsApp, policies can be accessed through the app in settings. More rules, terms, and services can be accessed by the official website as well. Similar to aforementioned apps, the guidelines ensure proper use, preventing illegal activities, violence, and fraud. All three of these guidelines and rules can be searched online or accessed within apps, and all of these and all their purposes is to ensure respect and safety within their cultured community. Thank you.
Thank you to the presenter before me. Hi, my name is Cassidy Ian. Today I'll be talking about the validity and soundness of our premise and conclusion. First, let's look at validity. Premise 1. Teenagers lack the maturity to resist social media addiction. Premise 2. Social media acts as a risk multiplier for cyberbullying and harmful content. Because of our conclusion that a ban is necessary directly addresses these two statements, the argument is logically valid and structured correctly. Next, we move to soundness. A sound argument is not only valid but must also be based on true premises. To prove premise 1 is true, we look at neuroscientific evidence. The prefrontal cortex (PFC) maturation are the area responsible for impulsive control, planning, and resisting peer pressure. It is the last part of the brain to mature, often not reaching full development until the mid-20s. The limbic system mismatch. While logical part of the brain is slow to develop, the emotional limbic system is fully developed by age 12. The mismatch creates a biological vulnerability that makes teenagers more susceptible to social pressure and addiction. Now we evaluate the evidence for premise 2 on the high-risk nature of social media. Persuasive design and dopamine loops. Features like infinite scrolls and variable rewards like notifications are specifically engineered to trigger dopamine releases, creating a cycle of compulsive use similar to substance addiction. Algorithmic harm. Research shows that algorithms optimized for engagement often inadvertently push harmful content such as extreme diets or cyberbullying to vulnerable minors because those topics generate high interactions. Mental health correlation. Studies have shown a strong link between social media usage in adolescents and increases rates of depression and anxiety. To conclude, because of our premise are supported by scientific and behavioral data, we move from simple logical structure to an argument that is both valid and sound. By, by using this methodical approach, we ensure our decision making is based on rationality and evidence rather than just emotion. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Chen In and I will present the counter argument of under 16 social media ban. First, the policy may be overly restrictive. Today, social media is no longer just a platform for entertainment. Many students use it to access educational content, follow academic creators, participate in discussion groups, and even develop digital skills such as content creation, communication, and online collaboration. For some teenagers, social media is also a way to stay connected with classmates and school communities. By imposing a total ban, we may unintentionally meet their opportunities for digital learning and social development in a world that is becoming increasingly technology-driven. Second, the ban does not fully address the root problem. The real issue is not simply whether teenagers have access to social media, but how they use it. Problems like cyberbullying, excessive screen time, and exposure to harmful content are related to digital behavior and awareness. If young people are not taught how to manage their online activities responsibly, Banning access only delays the problem rather than solving it. Once they turn 16 and regain access, they may still lack the skill to navigate online risks safely. Instead of a complete ban, a more balanced solution would be stronger platform regulation. For example, social media companies could use AI moderation to detect harmful content, apply automatic screen time limits for minors, and remove target advertisements aimed at young users. Most importantly, digital literacy education should be a central part of the solution. School can play a key role in teaching students how to protect their personal information, recognize harmful interaction, and handle cyberbullying properly. This approach builds awareness, critical thinking, and self-discipline, which provide long-term protection rather than temporary restriction. In conclusion, protection is necessary, but regulation and education may be more effective and realistic than a total prohibition.